Polar bears are an iconic apex predator that hunts seals on sea ice, but sea ice is melting and reducing their ability to hunt effectively.
Polar bears diverged from grizzly bears only about 600,000 years ago during the Middle Pleistocene. Polar bear canines are enlarged while their molars are greatly reduced in size. Their skull shape is elongated to effectively hunt seals and fish via small holes in ice, but is biomechanically weak compared to the omnivorous grizzly bear, and poorly suited to consume mechanically challenging foods that are common in many omnivorous or herbivorous diets.
My colleagues and I conducted a study where we investigated the diets of Alaskan polar bears in the past as well as in the present to understand their behaviors during times of climate change. Looking to the past is really important here because it helps us to understand and contextualize any changes that we might be seeing in the present.
Dental microwear texture analysis, or DMTA, can be used to infer soft, hard, and tough food consumption in the weeks to months before an animal's death. Normally, our lab uses this technique to understand the diets of animals that lived thousands to millions of years ago. However, we analyze the microscopic wear patterns on these teeth to assess the feeding behavior of these hard-to-study apex predators, also examining historic specimens from museum collections and polar bears from the medieval warm period that occurred approximately 1,000 years ago.
This work was a true collaboration between folks at Vanderbilt University, the University of Alaska at Fairbanks, the Museum of the North, and Portland State University. At the Museum of the North, we were able to study numerous polar bears and grizzly bears that have been collected over decades to centuries. Put simply, we put blue goo on teeth and take molds, essentially conducting polar bear dentistry. In addition to studying modern bears, we also studied archaeological polar bears from another period of warming. This period of warming is called the medieval warm period. It occurred approximately 1,000 years ago.
We found that polar bears have historically consumed really soft foods, tissues like blubber that are energy dense and high quality resources. And we see this specialized soft food signal even during a previous episode of climate change called the medieval warm period that happened about 1,000 years ago. However, we also found that Alaskan polar bears are now consuming significantly harder foods, things like bone or even human garbage. These are foods that they haven't consumed in the past and that they're not well adapted to consume.
In contrast to polar bears, grizzly bears are able to eat harder foods, and they do.
With ongoing Arctic warming, polar bears may be forced to compete with grizzlies as they move to exploit resources on land, which they are currently known to do for marine carcass resources like bowhead whale bone piles, which are common sites of encounter for the two species. Additionally, the two species occasionally produce viable, fertile hybrids from opportunistic mating events at these carcass sites. Referred to as pizzlies or growler bears, they look intermediate between polar bears and grizzlies and have more robust features than the polar bears. The prevalence and success of these hybrid lineages may increase, particularly if they are more suited to engage in Arctic hunting and terrestrial foraging than polar bears.
Polar bears have captured public attention as a symbol of the costs and consequences of global climate change, and for good reason. These apex predators are specialized sea ice hunters, and melt in the Arctic threatens their entire lifestyle. Climate change is an ongoing crisis for biodiversity. It's absolutely imperative that we take big steps to mitigate our impact on this planet, for our own future and for that of the polar bear.